Student debt is still crushing people while they're in retirement. Should you be saving for your child's college education or education in general? And we're going to talk about focusing on the few rather than the many. Enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning into The Age of Jeremy. This is a show all about my business adventures and side quests. I have a few businesses, 3T Warrior Academy, Blockheads, the company that brought you Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. I also own Age of Radio, which is a podcast network, the podcast network for everyone. And I also own a company called Freedom Insurance. And we have some great stuff in store in all of those businesses. So if you want to stay up to date on all those things, go ahead and subscribe to me at Age of Jeremy on Instagram. And make sure that you also sign up for my Dope Insights and Broadcast channel, or my broadcast channel. Yes, my Dope Insights Dope Insights and Updates broadcast channel. For the life of me, I forgot what it was that I was doing because I got a weird email because I'm on vacation and I saw a meeting was starting and I was confused on what that meeting was. So it completely distracted me from recording this amazing podcast for all of you beautiful people. So thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this wherever you're listening to it. Share it with some people. Get in front of more people. And I'm really excited because we are so close to getting Markets Radar on its own actual feed on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I do a 20 to 40 minute podcast about what's going on in the markets. That's crypto markets. That's bond markets. That is any market really that I think is relevant to something that you need to know to invest in. And I give commentary on those markets and talk to you about what I think that all of it means. It's called Markets Radar. It's been going on for a couple of months now here on the Age of Jeremy podcast feed, but it's going to be moving to its own feed, and I have a lot of great stuff in store. Also, there's just a few things that we're going to be tightening up, but there is a new thumbnail out, so if you want to see what that thumbnail is, go ahead and check it out on Instagram at Age of Jeremy. One of the reasons why I like doing this podcast is because it gives me time to reflect and to share with you all the things that I'm learning along the way with business. And today we're going to be talking about a few things. One, we're going to be talking about the problem with education as it relates to the debt that it creates, and the fact that a lot of people in retirement are still paying off that debt, unfortunately, and it's making it hard for them to retire. And also, should you even be paying for your children's education, or should they have to figure it out for themselves? I'm going to share my thoughts on that. And then after we do that, I'm going to deep dive a little bit into focusing on just a few KPIs a week or a few things rather than focusing on so many things, and really driving a few activities that should create the result that you're looking for inside of your business, because that's something that I have really been focusing on over the last couple of weeks. And I'm really excited to see where Age of Radio is going to go, where Q Financial is going to go, where Freedom Insurance is going to go, because I've really been focusing on my ability to manage things better and have really kind of changed a little bit about my outlook on business and what I'm trying to accomplish. And I'll explain that also when we get into that part of the show. So first, we're going to talk about this hidden crisis that is completely upending the American dream for millions of older adults. When you think of student loans, you probably picture maybe a recent college grad, but the reality is much darker for a lot of older generations. As of the first quarter of 2026, roughly 9.5 million U.S. adults aged 50 and older are burdened with approximately $452 billion in student loan debt. These aging borrowers are holding on to loans they took out to put their children through school, to put themselves through school. Maybe they went back for a degree later in life. And because of this massive financial weight, many older Americans are being forced to dramatically slash their retirement nest eggs or delay leaving the workforce altogether. Could you imagine working your whole life, wanting to retire, and then realizing you can't retire because you have a ridiculous loan payment that you still need to pay for. And it's kind of sad because in other countries, at least through certain levels of college, the government pays for it, but we're not going to go into that. And I feel that should the parents be sacrificing their financial freedom for their child's education? The question, it depends on what it is that they're trying to build for their family. So for me, I'm in my 40s. If I had a child maybe in the 20s, and I was where I'm at today, right? If I had a child in my 20s, my child would be starting college right now. I would have probably planned in some capacity for them to go to college. I'm a big advocate for college. I think everybody should go to college, and I think everybody should make that sacrifice for themselves and for their children, and a family should work together to make sure that the family skill set and the family's education level is superior, I suppose, to other families, if you're thinking about it from a competition perspective. Now the problem is that the way in which they go about funding the education, the cost of education, and then the things that go into, I guess, paying for that education. If it means that a parent has to take out on a bunch of debt, I would specifically say no, they probably shouldn't. They should come up with an agreement with the child, or they're helping with some of it, and the child is doing what they need to do to pay their way through college, figure out a way to maybe work a part-time job while they go to college, all that money going to the college that they're going for, the degree that they're going for, wherever they're going for the tuition, right? And then the parent should help out with that, but the burden should not completely fall on the parent. The problem is that we don't understand planning, and we don't understand the quickness and the way in which life passes by us, that we don't think about the things that we should be thinking about for the future, because we can always say, oh, it's later on in the future, so we can keep putting it off. And that's one of the biggest problems when it comes to the education piece, is because the parents and the children aren't having that conversation, and they're not working with their child to figure out what the child wants to do. And it makes sense that maybe you don't want to do that to your child, because that's, what children are young, right? They want to have fun. They want to enjoy their life, and you should be able to do that. But as they're growing up, you should try to plan for this. You should have these conversations with the child, right? We think that because someone's 16 or 13 that they can't understand things. I personally believe that children can understand things a lot better when we sit down and have real conversations with them, except for maybe in the case where there's some kind of mental disability with the child. But as long as all of their faculties are there, mental and otherwise, there should not be a problem with having a conversation with the child about money. And one of the things that I feel that happens in our society is that we don't have enough of those conversations with our children. And then because of that, they tend to not understand really what the hell is going on with money, because we never talk about it with them. When I was growing up, I was told that you never talk about your pay with other people. You don't talk about your finances with your children. And I think both of those things are stupid. And I have business partners that are going to disagree with me possibly on this. But again, the more that people talk about how much they make with other people, the more that those people can fight for raises or for things that could move their salary higher. And that could be difficult for me, but I do believe that paying someone more than what they're worth is what businesses should be focusing on getting to, and not so much just giving them ownership all the time in the businesses. Is I feel that paying people and paying them well for their service can work a lot better. And I'm very grateful for the situation that I'm in, and that we had people that helped us. But if I could go back, I might have done things a little bit differently. But still, the outcome ended up being very beneficial for me. And so when we think about whether or not we should sacrifice for the child's education, I do think that we should, but it's going to vary depending on everybody's specific situation. So if you're approaching retirement with a mountain of student debt, what are your options? Well, the first place to look is loan forgiveness. Borrowers who work for a government or nonprofit entity might qualify for the PSLF program after making 120 qualifying monthly payments. However, parents who borrowed for their children must qualify on their own merit, and recent changes to the student loan system may have removed their access to this specific program. There's also the income driven repayment plan, which is actually the repayment plan that I am on, and I probably need to research what is going on with that and make sure that they're still deducting it from my paycheck every month because I'm redoing my budget and I haven't really paid attention to that. Just being transparent with all of you. For those who don't qualify for forgiveness, standard repayment plans, which usually require the loan to be paid off in 10 years, are often too expensive. By switching to an income driven repayment plan, retirees can significantly lower their monthly payments. For example, there was a couple in their 60s, and this is coming from a Wall Street Journal article, that had $100,000 in federal Parent Plus loans with a crushing $1,300 monthly payment for their daughter's degree. By switching to an income-driven plan, they lowered their monthly obligation, though it did extend the life of the loan and increase their total interest payments. Now, how do these massive loan payments practically affect a retiree's budget once they stop receiving a regular paycheck? And the problem with this is that it creates an immediate cash flow crisis because the high standard loan payments simply don't fit into a reduced fixed income retirement budget. So to survive, retirees are having to make painful sacrifices like meticulously tracking their spending, cutting out maybe travel, or even claiming their Social Security benefits earlier than their full retirement age just to generate enough income to cover the debt, which unfortunately locks them into a lower lifetime benefit. And this is one of the main reasons. Two things that I recommend here in this regard is if you don't have a budget, start a budget. I'm redoing my entire budget utilizing Quick and Simplify. Again, we had multiple different accounts that were combined with me and my ex-wife, and we're in the process of a separation. So I'm trying to separate all of that, trying to get more of that organized. I really don't have a lot of bills. If I think about all of the bills that I currently have that are not business related, that are just for my living, it's with the mortgage itself, it's still under like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. It's really ridiculous, and I'm very grateful for my current situation in life. And I wish the same for every other person and every person that's listening to this podcast episode. But if you learn to budget early on, you can really make like the habit formed, so that then when you're getting on in later in life, you understand that budgeting is a part of making sure that every dollar that you have goes towards something in some capacity, and you don't have money that's just willy-nilly going everywhere. What ends up happening, especially if you start getting a lot of money or you get into a position where your income is increasing, you just essentially up your purchasing that you usually do because you don't have a set allotment or a set budget in place for the new dollars that are specifically coming in. So no matter where you're at, if you can focus on learning how to do that and budget in that capacity, then you will put yourself in a much better place in the future, no matter what specifically happens. The second thing that I would recommend is no matter where you're at in your life, whether you're already in retirement or you're just getting started in college or into your 30s or starting to have children, one of the best and most important things that we can do is make sure that we are planning appropriately. And what I tend to see a lot of the time, the reason why people don't end up planning is because they really don't understand how to set goals. So essentially, when you learn to set goals appropriately on the things that you want to have in life, you can have that end result, and then you can work yourself backwards into the activities that will make it the activities that will help you reach that goal. And that's one of the main things that you should be focusing on right now, because if you can understand how to set those goals, how you want to travel, where you want to travel, how you want to live, what you want to accomplish, what your dreams are, what your goals are, and you kind of have like a vision plan, a vision board, and maybe a PowerPoint that talks about how to get to those, places in your life, you could be in a much better position later on in life because you understand how to plan for the future. And that's one of the things that I have started to learn about most people is none of them have a clear understanding of where they're wanting to go in life and how to get there. And so the earlier that you can build that, the earlier that you can plan for what's going to happen into the future and make sure that you have money so that you can go to college. Make sure that your children have money that you can go to college, right? And there's lots of different types of investment vehicles that can help you get there as well. Now, if budgeting and refinancing aren't really enough, many older adults are finding that their only remaining option is the one they wanted to avoid, which is going back to work. So picture that you are in retirement, you're taking care of things, and then you realize that you have to go back to work. Now, I don't think that when you retire, you should stop working and you should stop making money. That's one of the most ridiculous things in my mind. You don't have to work 40 hours a week. You don't have to work 80 hours a week. You don't have to work 20 hours a week. But you now can take the time to create and do the things that you want in the world. And some of those things can create income for you. And if you're doing that, then you don't have to worry about having a big bucket of money that you're slowly just pulling on, hoping that it lasts until the day that you decide to pass away, which is one of the biggest problems that I find in retirement in general. Financial advisors are seeing cases where clients are forced to work several years past their planned retirement date. Continuing to work provides the income flexibility needed to pay down the debt without taking on more loans or draining savings. But here's the most terrifying part of relying on this strategy. You can't always choose to work longer. Unexpected health issues can abruptly force you out of the workforce, leaving you with no income and a mountain of student debt. That's one of the biggest problems that I have with people that don't understand planning. People have this concept in their mind that they're going to live forever, that time is always in some distant future and they'll never get there, and that they'll have something one day that will save them. There's nothing that's going to save you. You need to plan for the future. And no matter what, you're more likely to be impacted by your genetics with health than anything else. So make sure that you're understanding what your genetics are, what the health issues are with your family, so that then you can really focus on making those areas stronger so that they don't impact you in the future. Because those things, the genetic things, traditionally are the things that cause the health problems, and they can be prevented in some capacity if you know what they are and you're focusing on them. Now, it's clear that student debt is no longer just a young person's problem. It's stalling the American retirement dream. So if you have debt or you have some type of repayment plan or something in place with the federal student aid or with the student loan company that you borrowed the money from, see what your options are at federal student aid, reevaluate what your budget is, and don't assume you can just work forever to pay it off, because in reality, something could happen, because we're not immortal yet. And that's one of the things that we have to realize. If we look at things how they really are, remember, one day you're going to die. Just remember that. Now, before we go to a break, I do want to talk about some other things in regards to what you could do in the ability that you want to help your child go to school, right? The terrifying reality of parents destroying their own retirement dreams by taking out massive loans to put their kids through school is ridiculous. Now, if we look at the numbers over the past 30 years, the cost of college has essentially doubled. And this is even after you adjust for inflation. For the 2025-2026 academic year, the average published tuition and fees were $11,950 for an in-state public four-year college and a massive $45,000 for a private four-year school. Now, I'm in the camp where I can currently pay for $45,000 a year for my child to go to a private school, and that's because I have spent most of my time and most of my life being able to do that for my child. Right? Again, it was planning, it was thought out, it was patience, and it was diligently working and putting things in the right place so I could do those things in the future that I wanted to do. And that's why I'm telling you, planning works and it makes sense. Companies have been going on for 100, 150 years. Companies like Sony, because they have a 100-year plan. Have a fucking 100-year plan. But again, that's just tuition. When you add in housing, when you add in food, the in-state public cost jumps to about $25,850, and you're looking at about $61,000 annually for a private school. And if you have a newborn today, right? Don't forget about the inflation trap. We talk about the inflation trap all the time in our 3T Warrior Academy because inflation means those numbers will be much higher by the time that your child steps into campus. I still plan on having children. I have no qualms about having children in my 40s if my wife is able to. I have no qualms about having children in my 50s or my 60s or maybe even in my 80s like Al Pacino does right now. But again, time with inflation makes these prices go up. So again, planning for what you're going to do in the future, having a plan for everything is very beneficial. And you might say, hey, Jeremy, that's boring because I still want this thrill of not having a plan. Well, plan for times where you don't have a plan for something and you can live that thrill. So how do we tackle $100,000 to $240,000 4-year college bill? Now, again, people disagree with me on this, that I'm around. I love all of them. They can choose to do whatever they want with their kids. I don't give a shit. Children, in my opinion, my children need to go to college. My children need to understand a trade and a skill in some capacity. And my children need to be able to think on an academic level about things that are going to be happening into the future. There is this whole thing about, well, if you've never done it, that's the way in which you learn. You can really think about something and understand how it works by fucking thinking about it. That's how we built the nuclear bomb. If we were going around making nuclear bombs without theorizing, we would have blown ourselves up. There was a possibility that we'd have blown ourselves up the first time. But again, there's application and there's theory, and application does much better when you have a really strong theory that goes behind it. And there's tons of evidence out there. Go and research Harvard Business Review, go on YouTube, go to Stanford, go to Yale, go just look up, and you can look at how theory and application go hand in hand. And that's one of the biggest things that I wish people would understand. And so I encourage you to go to college. I encourage you to get an education. I encourage you to focus on helping other people around you get the education so that we can build the strongest workforce and the strongest economy in the United States of America. Because again, we still compete at a country level with other colleges, other universities, other countries, and I want America to be the best. Now, the gold standard is the 529 college savings plan. I'm going to give this like a half of a thumb. Your money grows completely tax-free. That's good. And as long as you spend the withdrawals on qualified education expenses, you pay no federal income tax on the earnings. Now, the problem is a lot of parents worry, what if my kid doesn't go to college? Well, good news. As of 2024, you can now roll over up to $35,000 of unused 529 funds directly into a Roth IRA for your child, tax-free and penalty-free, as long as the account has been open for at least 15 years. But again, my fucking money that I have freaking kept putting into this for years upon years is all locked up. And that's one of the reasons why I do not like the 529 plan. There are benefits to a Roth IRA, but again, a 529 plan could be part of the overall puzzle. Again, you can have more than one thing helping you reach your entire goal. We feel like we have to put all of our money into one thing. Now, if you're carrying eggs, it makes much more logical sense to put them all into one basket. Why would you carry eggs in fucking 9 different baskets? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life, and I'm going to stand by that until the day that I die. But you could have different mechanisms to get your child through school or children through school. You also have the new Trump accounts. You should also look into these as well. I talked about them on my last episode a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago. These allow anyone to contribute up to $5,000 a year, and children born between 2025 and 2028 actually receive a $1,000 seed contribution from the government. Now, the money must be invested in broad U.S. equity index funds. The earnings are tax deferred. And while you will pay ordinary income tax on the gains, you can withdraw the money without the standard 10% early withdrawal penalty to pay for higher education. You also have custodial accounts. A lot of the people don't talk about these. People don't know what they are. Custodial account could be probably, if I had to pick between these, probably a better one in my opinion. Anyone can contribute. Well, this or the Trump account to some degree. I would pick a stupid Trump account, which is a Section 530A account, over a 529 plan. Currently, in my perspective, because of the ability the child can use the money kind of on anything that they want. But custodial accounts, which are UGMAs and UTMAs, I forgot what those, they're custodial accounts. Anyone can contribute unlimited amounts, but there are two massive drawbacks. First, the money becomes a child's property when they reach legal age, which is the reason why I like it, because, you know, they're an adult now. And if you did a good job, hopefully your fucking child is a little bit wiser than you are. And that should be the goal. My goal, to take a digression, my goal is that for when my child reaches 40, I want that motherfucker to be like 10 times wiser than me, which means at 20, he should be 10 times wiser than me. That should be my goal. That's the thing that I want to happen. So I would hope that if this guy has $1 million sitting in an account when he's 18, he's not going to go and frivolously spend it. He'll be doing things in the family, for the family, with the family, and doing dope, cool shit. Second, colleges look at this money as the child's asset, which again, this can reduce your child's eligibility for need-based financial aid by up to 20 or 25%. Here's the king, though. I want everything in my, here's the difference between me. Here's the difference. I want to be able to pay out of pocket for all of my child's education expenses. I even want some of my tax dollars and my money to go to help people that aren't in my specific situation, to help them get through fucking college also. Right? At Quintanilla Philanthropies, we're working on some grants that can go towards college education, community college education, scholarships for children. I think as a society, we should trade schools. We should pay for college education. That should be a burden that is on the community, and that will make this community much better. We have individualized ourselves too much in this fucking country, and it's like we don't even care enough about each other to pay to help the other people get out of the trouble that they're in, because we think that, oh, well, I was able to do it. Everybody else can do it. Oh, I had to do this. They should do it. It doesn't work that way in communities all of the time. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, getting back on track. The moral of the story here is that you cannot wait. You should start something today. The other option is an index universal life insurance. Now, I know that there's a lot of bad conversations and rap about index universal life insurance. I love index universal life insurance. I will love it till the day that I die. It is a fantastic product. It allows your money to grow tax-free. You can borrow against it tax-free. And if you start with one now for a child, I hate to say this, but let's say you get a $350,000 policy out on your child. You're paying, I don't know, $300 a month. That child's going to have a shit ton of money to pay for college. I didn't run the numbers, but they'll have enough money to pay for college when they get there. They can borrow against it. They can maybe do that to start a business. They could do whatever. The other kicker is sometimes people die. Sometimes your little Jimmy or your little Susie is going to get cancer because God wants to teach you a lesson or some shit. Okay? And they're going to pass away and they might die. Then you get $350,000 that can go to pay for other shit, or for their little brother and sister who had to watch them pass away. That kid could go, I don't know, get see a psychologist, get up and running, realize that they want to put all of their money into helping fix, cancer. And then that kid becomes a doctor, and you have extra money because little Jimmy or Susie died. That funded the other child's IUL policy. You borrowed against that. That one went on and started a great medical facility that eventually fucking cured cancer. Right? Those things can happen if you plan and you have a plan for what you're trying to do. So, I do apologize for you doing such a horrible story, but the fact is that people die. It sucks. It's sad. Life happens. God's kind of a dick, but life goes on, and we need to remember them, and we need to do better things. But the point is that because everybody dies, if everybody has a life insurance policy, that money can go to continuously fund the family. And this is the theory that essentially the Rockefellers utilized for their, to continue to build their wealth. And it could work for you. But more importantly, the IUL gives you the opportunity for the ability to borrow funds, whether it's in the child's name or in your name, to help pay for these specific things, and you don't have to pay taxes on it. Technically, the loan gets squared up upon death, so you don't have to pay any of the principal back, and you just get this interest float that you pay against. Again, there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet about IULs. I can see why they believe that, because of the way that people are utilizing index universal life insurance it's kind of scummy, and a lot of people are pieces of shit. But at our firm, at Freedom Insurance, come and check us out. Follow Coach JV if you want to learn more. I don't talk a ton about insurance on my Instagram channel, so go to Coach JV _ and he talks a lot about IUL. It's also part of a Capital DR system. So if you want to learn about that, you can head on over into the 3twarrioracademy.com. But so again, you could do a 529 plan. You could do a Section 530A, which is a Trump account. You could do a custodial account. You can do an index universal life insurance policy. You could use a mixture of all of these, right? It doesn't have to be one thing, because freaking, I don't know, you can separate your money into different vehicles for the same end goal, and there might be benefits to each that could be beneficial for your specific situation. So if you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me as well at jeremy.quintanilla@qfinancialllc.com. And then if you are interested in insurance after that consultation, I can get you in contact with one of our brokers with Freedom Insurance, as depending on the situation, I might take you on as a client for the insurance piece of it, but would love to talk to you about taxes and strategy as well. So again, we got so much stuff going on. There's so much stuff going on. I love it. I love how much stuff is going on. I love it. I feel like Trump when I keep saying the same thing over and over. I wonder if he knows that he says the same thing over and over. We'll be right back.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
I feel like this is one of those tangent episodes where I've just gone on so many tangents. I'm really trying to get better with the speed of my speaking. And I feel it's so difficult for me because I love going on tangents. And then I get loud and then I forget to breathe and it shows up in the audio. I was driving back from California on Sunday. I'm recording this on Monday, June 13th. You'll probably hear it on the 15th, I'm assuming. And I was driving back and I was listening to my last episode and there was so many things that I wish it sounded better at. Like I wish I was in a sound booth in my room. I have no insulation. Like I got super excited about insulation because we went to one of the sound stages at Universal Studios. And one of the things that I feel like it doesn't bother me when there is silence in a podcast. For a period of time, it gives people the option to think, to reflect on what was said. But the problem is that I feel that it shouldn't be that way, even though I know that no one really cares about it. So I just keep talking and talking, and then I have like these gasps of air. And the reason this is important to me is because I have a lot of things that I really want to focus on coming up. So one, we have Markets Radar. Make sure that you check that out. I'd love for you guys to follow the feed when it's out. But until then, it's going to be here on Age of Jeremy. I'm working on my website. I'm working on the Age of Jeremy website. We're redoing so much stuff with Age of Radio to get the podcast network workflows layered out. And one of the things during this period of time, it's really made me think of slowing down on doing so many things and really focusing on getting certain things across the finish line. And what sucks about that is because as a creative or a creator, I get so many ideas. Like I was at Universal Studio and I had another idea for something, which really got me focused on wanting to figure out how to make the sound a lot better. And that's where I started getting obsessed with the sound. And I think it's always going to be that way as an entrepreneur. But I think as far as like the business goes, all the people in the business don't need to know about everything all at once. And I've been thinking and looking back at all the things that I sometimes do when I get excited about something. And one of my key things is I really want to plan for these new products and services in a way that fits into the overall growth and trajectory of what I'm trying to do. And that's build, at least for Age of Radio, that's traditionally what I talk about on here. That's for Age of Radio, it's to build it into $1 billion independent media company, the largest independent media company in the world. And I know exactly how I'm going to get there, but then I get all these ideas and then I create anxiety for other people and I create anxiety for myself. And those are some of the things that I'm really trying to work on. And I encourage you to work on in your business, is that a lot of the times the leaders and the entrepreneurs, they work fast and then they want to push that fastness onto other people. And then that causes like disparity and anxiety in those other people's lives. And I'm starting to think that we could be more effective as a society and in businesses is if we didn't do those things from the things that I'm studying, especially reading Our Obsession with Speed in Vaclav Smil's Speed. And so when I think about that, it reminds me that, we need to slow down and we need to focus on a few key areas and a few key indicators in a business and find out what those are and then focus on those specific things until they're exactly where you want them to be. A lot of what happens is one thing, analysis paralysis, especially when we're juggling too many things, right? Our working memory has finite capacity. And when confronted with too many variables or options, our brain's decision-making apparatus essentially overheats and stalls out. And in business, the failure to make a decision because you were looking at too many options can cost millions in lost time and missed opportunities. And in the same fashion, if you were focusing on too many opportunities, then you're not doing enough analysis on the opportunities that you should be focusing on. So it's kind of like balancing these out a bit. Now, if you're trying to do everything leads to some type of paralysis, how do you fix it? And the answer is this ruthless prioritization, which is really my focus. Coach JV calls this kind of like the signal. I look at it a little bit different. His signal is focused on like the things that he specifically is doing throughout the day. I want to take that a step further and be the signal needs to be on a few or one key thing that you're trying to do inside of the business, and you need to buzz out all the other stuff. And so an example of this is, there was a situation that we're doing for a part of our trajectory for the second part of our plan for events. And one of the people that are helping me with the events had an idea. They wanted to share it with me. And the problem is I like the idea, but it's not something that I'm willing to add extra effort and time into or to prioritize in any way, because we're focusing on these other priorities to get them off the ground and getting them kind of like focused. And so that's one of the things that I want you to think about as you're taking on ideas, is because just because something can make money, just because it sounds like a good idea, it doesn't mean that it fits into part of what your mission is, what your priorities are, and even what your capabilities are to be successful at that specific thing, right? Because again, there is the priority of what you're trying to do, how it relates to the overall mission, and whether or not you have the capabilities to accomplish it at all. And so one of the things that I'm realizing is there's these things that I want to do. I didn't have the capabilities. So now I'm trying to put those capabilities into place so that I know what it is that I need to add in so that I can then get those things moving and getting them across the finish line. And whether you're designing a product or planning your week, there's this Pareto principle. It's roughly 20% of your features, tasks, or efforts are going to deliver 80% of your value. So if you strip away the secondary distractions, you elevate the core functions that actually drive your success. Now, in the corporate world, this means ditching the massive spreadsheets of key performance indicators or KPIs by limiting your KPIs. And by limiting your KPIs, you channel your team's energy away from a lot of hours of data analysis and back into doing the actual job. And so one of the things that we as leaders and managers need to do and entrepreneurs need to do is say, okay, what is the main KPI and the function that we're really focusing on here? And are we pushing all of our effort and energy into that specific area? And is that driving a specific result? And so for me, the two priorities that I had for Age of Radio, one was cleaning up the way in which a host comes on board and the way in which we pay those hosts in a seamless repetitive fashion so that we could put someone inside of the cycle, they can go through it and it would make it easy. And I'm already finding this morning even that there's still problems with that we have to fix. The second priority is getting so fucking good at ad revenue and marketing and ad sales that we are spending a majority of our time, right? Majority of our time in that specific task and effort. And so what I have now is a bunch of people that are putting out emails. That's getting our name out there. It's not resulting in any effectiveness. So I need to find where the problem is with that, why people don't want to advertise on this, get them the data that they need to find out what it is that they need to understand to be able to want to advertise on the network, solve that, and then start getting revenue in. That's the second priority. Then there's one other priority that I'm not going to mention. There's two other priorities. There's one priority that one's a slow burner, and then the second one is a priority that we're moving on. Outside of those four things, I'm not doing anything else until these things are to the KPIs that they need to be to, and there don't need to be 1,000 KPIs. It just needs to be a couple of things. A high quality set of metrics prevents data overload, and it fosters a culture where the most impactful areas get the attention that they deserve. Okay. And so there's another rule. It's called the rule of 2 to 5. Andy Grove, he's a legendary CEO of Intel, built his management philosophy around defining just 2 to 3 major objectives at a time. Warning that if you focus on everything, you end up focusing on nothing, which is, again, one of my main problems in my life is because of whether it's ADHD, whether it's Liberanism, whether it's my personality disorder that I have, whatever the case is, it's really refining those things into a few things inside of the businesses that we're focusing on. Google adopted a similar framework called Objectives and Key Results, or OKRs, to ensure focus. Google dictates that a team can only have a minimum of 5 objectives per quarter. If a multi-billion-dollar tech giant focuses its team to focus on just 5 things, you probably don't need 20 goals on your personal to-do list. Okay, so we should always think that things should be between 3 to 5. So if we think about the key objectives that we're looking at for Age of Radio, there's these 4 things that we're focusing on, and we're not going to go much past that because of the fact that if we go past that, there's a probability that we're going to be focusing on too many items. And there's something to be thought about or said to the fact that this is within an organization. So think about it for yourself as well if you're running multiple organizations. So if you can even get those objectives down further to maybe 2, right? Or 5 in total across all of the entities that you're trying to run, you can really make great progress in each of those specific entities. Now, if we all logically know that focus is important, why again is it so incredibly hard for us just to say no to things and to focus on the things that we know are important? And it's because we rely on willpower to say no, and eventually everyone loses the battle with willpower. So instead of relying on willpower, you need to create a personal rule, a principle. For example, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman created a strict rule that he would never say yes to a request over the phone. He would tell people he had to think about it and get back to them. This removed the immediate social pressure to please the other person, allowed him to naturally filter out mediocre opportunities. And I had a specific situation that happened over the weekend with this, and I was on leave on PTO for my partner's birthday. And during that period of time, someone asked me about something, and I said, look, I can look at it when I get back. I'm not willing to make this type of decision over looking at a quick email because there's some other things that we need to look at in this situation. And again, that goes back to the speed of things and not slowing down because people are trying to get things off of their plate rather than trying to get the best result off of the things that are currently on their plate. The way that I look at speed is like trying to cook a steak and saying that I don't care how it comes out. I just care that it's cooked enough that I can get it off on the thing into the plate. And the thing is that some people like steaks in different ways. And so if you have a plan of what the steak needs to be, then you need to keep the steak cooking, right, until it reaches the desired temperature, and then you can take it off. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but that's the one I thought of at this exact specific moment. Okay. So I want to leave you with some final thoughts on how to put this into practice immediately. When choosing your few key focus areas, make sure you're measuring outcomes, not outputs. An output is just a tangible activity. That's what I've been doing to get the activity up. I shouldn't have done that, okay? Like the number of emails you sent or features that you built. An outcome is the actual meaningful impact of the work, like improved customer retention. So focus your limited energy entirely on the outcome, not the output. So where we needed to fix the activity, I take that back. If the activity isn't there, you need to figure out what the activity needs to be, and then you need to get the activity up so that you can get the output that you specifically want. I think that they kind of work in tandem, but again, sometimes we have a bunch of outputs and we don't have any of the outcomes. So you need to set what you want the outcome to be for these specific activities and focus on getting those outcomes and coaching around those outcomes. And again, if you are launching something new like myself, okay, don't try to build the perfect, and I have to remind myself this every fucking day. Don't build the perfect massive version right away. Use the minimal viable product approach. Build the absolute minimum version of the product that allows you to collect the maximum amount of validated learning with the least amount of effort. So you start small, you act quickly, and only build what is essential. And if you listen to last week's episode when I talked about Peter Drucker, one of the things that I need to write down to remember, I haven't written it down yet, is that if we were to start doing this today in our current environment, would we do this thing that we're doing? If the answer is not like a fucking yes, then you don't do that thing and you need to shut it down or get rid of it. All right. Thank you so much for listening to The Age of Jeremy. Make sure to follow me on Age of Jeremy at Instagram. Go ahead and subscribe to my dope insights and updates. And as I always say, be thankful, grateful, and kind. We'll talk with you soon. Bye.
Tell me, how does it feel? Tell me, how does it feel? I see the meaning of life in your eyes. It's like swimming in the ocean at night. And when I'm with you, it's like I'm on fire. Nothing is real outside myself and your smile lines bring me down with sweet soft sound. My name, the way it sparkles when it leaves your mouth. You fill my soul